Hello, friends. Greetings on this middle of the week and middle of the month, Wednesday, February 17th. I've chosen to continue reading on from Sunday's lesson after Jesus took Peter and James and John with him up on top of the mountain and was transfigured before them. Following that, from the Gospel of Mark, they went back down the mountain, and here's the story of what happened next. Mark chapter 9, verses 14 through, 23. When they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them and some scribes arguing with them. And when the whole crowd saw them, they were immediately overcome with awe, and they ran forward to greet him. Jesus asked them, "What are you arguing about with them?" Someone from the crowd answered him, "Teacher, I brought you my son. He has a spirit that makes him unable to speak, and whenever it sees him, it dashes him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. And I asked your disciples to cast it out, but they could not do so." Jesus answered them, "You faithless generation, how much longer must I be among you? How much longer must I put up with you? Bring him to me." And they brought the boy to him. When the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And the father said, "From childhood. It has often cast him into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you are able to do anything, have pity on us and help us." Jesus said to him, "If you are able, all things can be done for the one who believes." I don't know if that exactly fits our story today, but I thought the theme was a good one. I'm reading another miracle story from Small Miracles. Linda Valentine was a famous model. Yet despite her money, fame, and glamour, she felt a gnawing emptiness inside. There was a sense of unease she could not cast off, a restlessness of spirit that filled her with unspeakable anxiety and dread. At night she was plagued with insomnia. She began to ask her friends what they thought of taking prescription drugs like Xanax and Valium. While many of them obligingly described the relative merits of each, one friend looked at Linda with genuine concern and took her aside. "That's not what you need," she whispered in distress. "Popping pills will only do you harm, and they only mask the symptoms. They don't address them. Are you free this weekend?" That weekend, Linda's friend took her to a program called Impact that promised to help participants articulate and accomplish their goals. It delivered. Incredibly, within a short week of taking the seminar, Linda achieved career breakthroughs and won contracts she had been dreaming about for years. But despite the sudden fulfillment of her greatest ambitions, her general angst lingered. Her soul remained in torment. One morning she was taking her usual drive to work, driving down La Brea, the main thoroughfare, when traffic came to a standstill. A water main had broken, and traffic was being diverted to a small, obscure street, one that she had never driven down before. As she inched her car along the unfamiliar street, she noticed a small storefront church with a handwritten sign in its window that proclaimed, "No God, no peace, N-O God, N-O peace. No God, K-N-O-W, no peace, K-N-O-W peace. Everybody welcome." She thought as she drove slowly by. How quaint. The next morning, Linda was on her way to work again, driving down La Brea, when for the second day in a row, traffic came to a halt. A fire was blazing out of control in one of the shops lining the boulevard, and fire trucks were converging on the scene from all directions. Policemen blocked off the area and diverted traffic to the same obscure street as the day before. "Oh no," she groaned, "not again." Once again she drove by the small storefront church. This time the sign seemed compelling instead of quaint. She thought for a moment that it was summoning her inside. "What an imagination I have," she laughed, scolding herself for her penchant for melodrama. Still, from her car window she squinted at the storefront church, trying to catch a glimpse of its interior. Her gaze was wistful. The next day she thought of changing routes, but told herself that she was being foolish. After all, what were the odds of another calamity occurring on the same street 3 days in a row? This will be a test, she chuckled to herself. If there is some disaster on La Brea again, and traffic gets diverted down that same street again, then I will know for sure it's a sign. When she turned down La Brea, she was thunderstruck. Traffic was backed up for blocks. A major car accident, explained an apologetic cop, diverting traffic again for the 3rd time in a row down the same small street. That does it, she exclaimed. She parked her car and entered the church, which was empty except for a young priest sitting behind a desk. He looked up at her and smiled. "What took you so long?" he asked. He had seen her car pass by all 3 days and had absorbed her wistful gaze. They spoke for a long time, and she ended up joining the congregation. That was 18 years ago, and Linda has been there ever since, having found the peace and serenity that had eluded her elsewhere. Just as the sign promised, what she really needed in her life was to know God. And wasn't it, after all, God who had sent her there in the first place? And of course, it was the same God that sent Jesus to perform all those miracles, to teach us the way of God's love, and to teach us how to care for one another. And of course, we all need to know God so that we might know God's peace. That's the peace I wish for you, my friends, on this wild and woolly winter Wednesday. May you stay safe and to know God's peace. Amen.